guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Can you tell that I'm ready for winter? I've got the sweater, I've got the beanie, I'm drinking some hot chocolate, I've even made cookies with the Christmas plates. Let it snow. As you saw from the title, I'm going to be talking about 5 criminally underhyped fantasy books. I think they're so good and they just do not get the appreciation that they deserve, and I will never stop talking about them. I love these books. I would love for other people to love them as well, so I'm going to share them with you. First up is Fireborn by Rosaria Munda. This is a YA political fantasy. First off, it has dragons. If I need to convince you after that, really? No, I'm just kidding. My camera can stop recording. Forgot the last thing that I said, but I know I was talking about Fireborn by Rosaria Munda. Follows Annie and Lee. It's dual POV. It takes place after a revolution inspired by the French Revolution. Everything that goes on after the fighting ends. Annie and Lee are both orphans and they're fighting for the first spot as dragon riders. They're both amazing dragon riders. They're obviously in love with each other. Technically, this is enemies to lovers, but this is political enemies to lovers because they're on opposite sides politically. Also, just kind of what they were born into, because Lee is hiding a big secret. He's not sure if Annie remembers or not. They both knew each other as kids. It's like unspoken. It is just between them two. Lee was the son of aristocrats who ruled as dragon lords, and basically, as it seems their town that they are about to go to war again, Annie is really wondering which side Lee is going to be on. The side of his family, who are rich aristocrats, even though he's been raised poor and he has never really had power, where he stands politically. At the very end of this book, there is a true test on which side Lee is going to take to do something that really tests his loyalty. I just love this book so much. I love books with dragons. I love books that are heavy on politics. And these dragons, they cannot talk in this book, but they can communicate with their writer. This book is driven by questions of loyalty, ethics, and the price of a revolution. And the relationship between the characters are super complex and super deep, and everything is just explained so well in this book. It's not just telling and not showing, because that is one of my biggest pet peeves in books. It shows you everything. I just feel like my explanation is not giving it justice, but it's so good, so complex. It's a completed trilogy. I just fell in love with the writing, and I fell in love with Annie and Lee. As the series goes on, more characters' POVs are added as well. I have not read the third book yet, but I've heard that it is so tragic and makes a lot of people cry, and I'm just not ready for it yet. One of my biggest things with book series, I'll read the first book, maybe the second, but I will never finish it because I hate saying goodbye to the characters. I hate it. But I also want to know what happens. Sometimes I'll read like a good 3/4 of the last book and then just be like, okay, I don't want to say goodbye yet. So I've been reading lots of standalones, just thrillers, because it's like you get so attached to a character, or like you hear their whole life story and then like you just have to say goodbye. No, I shan't. But please check it out. It's, like I said, I feel like my explanation does not it just did not hold a candle to how good the book really is. So next I have Bones to the Wind by Tatiana Obi. This is book 1 of a duology. I have finished it, and book 2 did break my heart. Like, it made me so sad. This follows Reija and Nico. In this book, it's a fantasy book that also has a dragon, but the dragon is more prevalent in book 2 than it is book 1. But basically, when kids come of age, when kids become adults, to become an adult, actually, you have to complete a forging. So you could be 57 years old, but if you haven't completed your forging, you're not considered an adult. You have to complete a forging. It's like a quest that you're probably going to die on. Reija wants to go big or go home. She wants to slay the dragon at the end of this quest. That is her biggest thing. She's with a group of people. She tries to take complete control of the group, does not know how to work well with people at all. Is just determined and doesn't want anyone to stand in her way, but at the same time, she's just not a team player. And then Kai, he is hated by this town. He is called terrible names just because he is sick and he's weaker than everybody else there, and he's just seen as less than in this society. He's supposed to go through with this forging even though he is so weak, does not know how to fight, not a fair fight. His sister Nico, she does want to protect him. He does not want her protection. He ends up leaving her and then going on this quest with Reija. So you have Reija, who is an amazing fighter. Her family is super well known in this area. Everyone praises them. And then you have Kai, who people could not care less about. And they are just like an unlikely duo, reluctant allies. They end up doing this together, and Nico is also very prevalent in this book. She ends up going on this, and Nico wants to protect her brother. It's also good to note that Nico and Reija, they hate each other. They hate each other, not friends at all. So when Nico finds out that Kai has left her and ends up going up with Reija to finish this forging, she is not with it at all. She is so mad at him, and she wants to do everything to get Kai back from Rasia, while also trying to complete her forging, while also trying to be a good team player to her group that she's with on the forging. I love books with quests. I love the found family trope because sometimes the family is people that you meet along the way and that you fall in love with and just cannot imagine your life without. Love it so much. I loved book 2 as well. It did rip my heart out. Another book that I'm just like, that is just so underrated. And it's duology, so if you don't want to commit to a full-on 4 or 5 book series, there's only 2 books and it's complete. All right, the next book I have is The Last Daughter by Alexis Elminar. This is actually a fantasy romance. More romance than there is fantasy, but it is inspired by Norse mythology. A lot of that is implemented in this book, but it follows Elisa. She's dealing with a fatal illness. Her father and sisters, they are killed at war, and she ends up becoming the last daughter. But she's the last daughter in a long line of shield mages, and that comes with a lot of power, and that is where Volley comes into play because he wants all this power. He takes it. He goes to get it. He kills Elisa's entire family, so he wants the power from her. She's refusing to give it, so he just kidnaps her, puts her on the ship with a bunch of terrible human beings. After he's murdered her family, she's all alone. They are forced to work together to survive, and they end up falling in love despite everything. Okay, hear me out. You're probably like, how did she fall in love after her family died? Okay, in Norse mythology, there's Valhalla, and her family is in Valhalla, and she can talk to them that way. This might be my hear me out book. You're like, girl, please. But I still loved it. Volley, his realm is dying, and the only way to keep his realm together is to use this tether that Elisa has. So he has to get it from her, but the way he went about it was horrible. He did not know her, and Elisa helps make him a better man. Volley is also the son of Odin, and Odin has never cared about his son at all. He takes her back to Alfheim to try to fix everything. Elisa also has an animal companion, and there are a few betrayals in this book. I was like, okay, didn't see that coming. I think it's a good book, in my opinion, but I love this book, and I love this author. Now I have The Blood Trials by Nini Davenport. This is an adult sci-fi fantasy book. This follows Ikena. She is the granddaughter of a very esteemed Praetorian. And the Praetorian, they're the most elite group of soldiers that work for the government, and she wants to become a part of the Praetorians. That's always been her dream, but her grandfather died, and then she realizes that it was a murder, a very sinister murder, and then she's trying to get to the bottom of it and figure out who murdered her grandfather, while also completing these Praetorian trials with her 2 best friends. These trials are super deadly. Not many people survive. Don't get attached to a character because they're probably going to die. I will tell you that. They are probably going to die. There are so many characters I'm like, I love you. Next page, dead, gone, goodbye. Yeah. She is treated about 10 times worse during these trials than anybody else is. She is determined to survive despite all odds being against her, despite being betrayed so many times, despite people close to her dying, despite investigating her grandfather's murder. She's also a very fierce fighter. I really enjoyed this book. I would say, like, there's not a lot of sci-fi in it. It's more fantasy than sci-fi. I love the cover of this book. She is out for vengeance and is trying to avenge her grandfather's death and become a Praetorian. The last book I have on this list is Ashley, Breath of the New Creature by A.E. Jurgens. This book is just one of my favorite books of all time. It follows Aisling, and her dad has offered to marry her to the Fae King to form an alliance between Fae and humans, and Aisling is not thrilled about this at all because the only thing that her dad has told her her entire life is that Fae are terrible, horrible people. They're big, bad, scary. They hate humans. They are very violent. So she is just not thrilled to marry the Fae King until her wedding day, and she meets Lear, and she's like, wait a minute. First of all, why is this Fae King about to be my Fae King? Why is he handsome? Why does he look so calm, so sweet, so gentle? I've heard the opposite about everything. I've heard that these people are supposed to be our enemies, and she marries Lear, and she's expecting like their wedding night to be terrible and for him to be horrible to her, but he didn't really care that he's married to Aisling at all. He just is like, hey, here's our room, you can have it, and he leaves. It was like, I'm a king, I have things to do. She just meets more people. She meets Gilroy and Galad, and she makes friends here, and she realizes that, whoa, this place is not that bad. But if it's not that bad, and my dad lied to me my entire life about everything going on here, what else did he lie to me about? And they have to go on a quest together, and Aisling actually runs away from Lear, even though she's falling in love with him. She's just trying to unravel all the lies that she's been told her whole life. Lear also teaches her how to fight. There's so many adorable scenes like that where Lear is just teaching her all these things, and it is a fantasy book first, love story second, but the crumbs you get, basically an arranged marriage and then falling in love, so amazing, so sweet. And I love, like, you know, you always hear about the big bad wolf male main characters, which Lear can be that, but he is so gentle, so sweet with Aisling. He does not play by his wife. This is a trilogy, and 2 out of 3 books are out. Book 2 is just as good, if not better, than book 1, and I can't wait for book 3. And A.E. Jurgens is such a sweet author, so amazing. I've talked with her many times, and she's just a breath of fresh air. Love her and love her books. And I remember asking her one time, because I'm like, her writing is perfect for dark academia. I was like, would you ever write a dark academia fantasy book? And she said she just thought about it. So I'm like, if you ever write it, I'll be the first to buy it. I will come to the book signing, because her writing, I always say at the same time, is very whimsical, mystical, magical, and it just reels you into the story to where it does not look like you're looking at words on paper, you're in the story. I love when an author can do that for me. These are the 5 books that I have for you today. 5 books that are criminally underrated and deserve so much more hype, in my opinion. You can agree, disagree, but I just don't see them enough and feel like they deserve all the love. I have a lot more books that I think are underhyped, so if you would like a part 2, comment down below and I would be more than happy to make a part 2. I would love to make a video on books that I think are just overhyped and do not deserve the hype that they have. In my opinion, again, I love healthy conversations. I love debate. So if you want to respectfully leave a differing opinion, that's always welcome, because sometimes I'll read a book, love it, then read a different review, like a bad review, and I'm like, alright though. Still love the book. Thank you guys so much for watching, and tune into more of my videos. I would love to make some more videos like this. Drink some hot chocolate. Thank you to my best friend Riley for buying me this cup. Had to get the thumbnail.